Welcome back. You know, you might say it all started with a single piece of candy over a decade ago, and now through his organization, Elijah's Heart, my next guest has created a movement of love that is helping underprivileged children and their families. We are excited to welcome to the show Papa Joe Bradford, who's the founder and CEO of Elijah's Heart. Welcome.
Thank you, Tawanda.
Well, I'm so glad to get a chance to meet you. Some people who may not have seen the movie Unconditional may not know your story. So if you would take us back to the beginning where you grew up in West Tennessee with your mom, your grandmother, and your sister.
Well, I grew up in a small town, and I was a fatherless child. My father left when I was in the womb. And I grew up wanting to prove something to my dad that wasn't around. And so I was blessed to do very well in school. I graduated one of the top students in my class, had a full-ride engineering scholarship at the University of Tennessee. Now, at the point of graduating, Tawanda, I became one of the original computer hackers. And right when I was about to get a job at IBM, on a day I hacked into a bank.
Oh.
And it was just pride. And let's just say it changed things in my life.
It did, didn't it? It really changed. You wound up spending some time behind bars.
I did. I had to spend some time behind bars, and that was some kind of transformation, sweetheart.
I can just imagine. But you know what? You didn't stay back there. And somewhere along the way, you were inspired to, you know, sort of help others. You didn't want to see a lot of today's at-risk children who grew up much of the same background as you sort of take that wrong path. Right. And when I said at the beginning that it all started with a single piece of candy, share with us the story of you and your wife and that piece of candy.
Well, I met this wonderful lady named Denise, and she agreed to marry me. And I got a rare kidney disease right after we got married. And we ended up moving into one of the inner city communities in the housing authority. The first day there, this mute girl came to our door, and I didn't know she couldn't speak. Well, my wife goes back and gets a piece of candy and brings it to the child. We found out later there are 50 children living on our street. What happens when you give one child a piece of candy?
They all want a piece of candy.
Exactly.
So she came back with all the kids from the neighborhood.
With a slew of kids, honey.
And it was at that point, I think, you and Denise thought, wow, there's a lot of kids out there who are lacking. And you started to work on sort of filling needs of the community.
Exactly. I kind of saw myself in these childs, you know, at children, like when I was young. And so we started a music program with the children. My wife and I are musicians, and we made a little choir out of the kids. I mean, they're going to sing about something. And so we had them singing about positive things.
Yeah, Unity Choir, I think is what it was called. And I think it was at one of those rehearsals where your nickname came about, wasn't it?
Exactly, exactly. We were asked to do a choir for the National Day of Prayer. And we had about 50 to 60 kids at the rehearsal, and this little 12-year-old comes walking in, and she had a swollen face. And we looked at the child and said, what's wrong, what's wrong? We found out she had been beaten. So we prayed for the child and tried to take care of the situation. Well, the kids were eating lunch later, and I'm over to the side. The little girl's sister, who was a few years younger, came to me and said, will you be my dad? Now, I thought the kid was playing with me. Well, her best friend came on the other side and said, will you be my dad? And I, you know, in the country used the word cahoots. Yeah. So I'm thinking they're in cahoots, right? Yeah. Well, it wasn't. There was another little boy that heard him and came in front of me and said, will you be my dad? They didn't ask me for my qualifications. They didn't ask me if I was a dad. They just wanted to know, will you be my dad? Before I knew it, it set off a chain reaction. And I was surrounded by 30 to 40 children asking the same question.
Wow.
And so I had to call off rehearsal. The next week, I came back, and they said, Mr. Joe, what's your answer? And
they were ready for an answer.
They were waiting for an answer, honey. And so I believe that my name was changed that day to Papa Joe.
Oh, Papa Joe. You said just call me Papa Joe.
That's it, honey.
Well, Elijah's Heart is your nonprofit.
Right.
And how did that come about? How did, you know, going from the Unity Choir to holding a whole nonprofit organization, establishing that, how did that come about, and who is Elijah?
Elijah's Heart is based on basically the last two verses in the Old Testament. It has to do with hearts of the fathers to the children and children to the fathers, basically surrogate parenthood.
Gotcha.
And so we believe that, you know, anyone who had a heart of love could be a surrogate father, surrogate sister, surrogate brother, surrogate mom. And so what we do is unite people to help these kids in various ways.
Yeah. Your story, and I mentioned that at the beginning, it was made into a movie, Unconditional. It starred actor, a lot of folks will know, especially women, Michael Ealy,
Yep.
played you. You've had an autobiography written about you. Has the exposure from the movie and your autobiography, has that helped sort of, because you've established lots of other programs
Yes.
from Elijah's Heart. Has that helped in any way, the movie and the book?
Oh, it's helped greatly.
Yeah.
Unconditional is a 5-star movie on Netflix.
Wow.
It's in 121 countries. We're one of the most watched movies in schools, churches, and prisons. And we didn't know all this was going to happen. And so it's opened up a door to help a lot of kids. I get to travel, help kids all over the country. But in the Nashville area, well, we've got some amazing things going on with, yeah.
You absolutely do, and I want to talk about them because you have a fundraiser, a walk each year, and it's your whole movement is based on love and how you can help these young people, at-risk young people. Talk about the Walk of Love and what exactly is the mission? What do you hope to achieve with your organization?
Okay, our mission basically is to bring practical help, not just words, but practical help to at-risk children and their families, and also raise awareness of their situation, because a lot of people just don't know. And so with the Walk of Love program, it's basically set up to bring practical needs to whole entire communities. A few years ago, my wife and I went to visit a single mother's house with 6 children. I went into the restroom and noticed there was no toilet paper. There was a Yellow Pages phone book with 1/3 of the pages torn out. These children were using the Yellow Pages as toilet paper.
Wow.
This shouldn't be in our country and in our city, Tawanda. And so we started the Walk of Love. And so we go into the entire community and take boxes of food, personal care stuff.
Yeah.
We have volunteers come out, have a ball.
Wow.
Children, families,
Yes,
organizations, businesses, yeah, we have a ball.
So that's just one sort of program that falls under Elijah's Heart. But you also, we know how important literacy and knowing how to read and write
yes.
is, and it can totally shape how a child does in school as well as how they do in life. You have a program called Kids Love to Read. And how does that program work?
Oh, this is one of my favorite. Oh, my. If you give a child a fish, you feed them for the day. And we do that with the Walk of Love. They need the fish, honey. Now, to teach a child to fish, we asked this elderly lady who was a former teacher, now, what's the most important thing that you would say is, concerning education? And she said, teach them to read well. And we've noticed that when a child can become a great reader, they can become a great learner. And so we don't just help one child. We keep on hand over 50,000 children's books.
Wow.
Yeah. And we build small libraries into the homes of the children.
How do the kids get these books? How do you?
We have big literacy events, big book giveaways. The volunteers come out, and when kids get to choose the type of books that they want, the parents get to choose, because a lot of times the parents can't read that well, unfortunately. And so we have volunteers help them to read and choose the books, and we've even had organizations partner with us to make bookcases. Yeah, it's amazing.
You guys are doing some remarkable things, and with most nonprofits, I know you can always use help. How can the community, those folks watching, volunteer or help you do what you're doing?
Well, if you go to Elijah'sHeart.com, you can find a tab that says, volunteer or get involved, and we actually list on there ways that people can get involved. For example, with the Walk of Love program, kids are out of school.
Right.
And so they don't get the lunch or the breakfast that they have in school. And so we have a feeding program where we're going to be giving lunches throughout the summer. So people can come volunteer and give lunches to the children. And so, but basically, they go on our website, and they can volunteer for whatever suits their heart.
We only have about a minute left, Papa Joe, but I would love to hear what do you feel is the greatest need? What is that your organization need most, Elijah's Heart?
Love. I know that. I don't know if you expected that one.
Well, no, but yeah.
If we can influence people to have love in their heart and to move out, then the programs take care of themselves. We just want people to unite and come together. Yeah, if they go on our site, email us, contact us. We can find ways that you can help. It doesn't matter if you're an individual, a family, a group. It doesn't matter.
Wow.
Yeah, you can donate on there, whatever you choose. Yeah.
Thank you so much for what you're doing, and thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
You're doing a great job. I want to also thank my earlier guests for being here, Lucas and Emily from Camp Cassim. And thank you so much for watching. I'm Tawanda Coleman. I'll see you next time on the Plus Side of Nashville.